Hi there crafters, Louise with you today. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. It's a new share for the May 2025 Kitaholic Kit. And last month you might remember we got these little plain embellishments, again from 49er Market. And I had in my mind that I wanted to do a plain themed or travel themed page with these photos of Master Cooper standing in front of a jumbo jet engine when we visited the Qantas Museum. And so that's what's inspiring my layout today. You can see that this month's kit actually has some really fun plain or travel themed elements, and I thought it was going to be perfect. So I've picked my photos and I'm going to use this little journaling card with some 3x4 photos as well, and that's going to form sort of a bit of a feature of this layout. Now I wanted to cut a circle, and then this is inspired by the circle of the plane engine, and I didn't have the right size circles. So this is what I'm doing in terms of creating my own size circle, is tracing my circle, adding an inch around the outside, and then sketching a rough circle. Now this doesn't have to be perfect because I am going to distress the edges. It is one thing that I'm loving about this kit, is that because it's so rustic and has those beautiful warm golden tones with the browns and grey and even those little pops of blue, I think it's really great to use it as a more rustic sort of type background and layout. Now you can also see that I have chosen black cardstock, which is again a little bit unusual for me. I'm not always interested in coloured backgrounds. I do like a white background, but I really wanted to challenge myself. I'm finding that with this month's kit, the kit itself is a challenge, and I'm simply just having so much fun creating with something different. It's not the brights that I'm used to, and I'm really enjoying the creations that come out of this. So for the inspiration, black background, really trying to push my comfort zone, and I'm going to stitch around that sort of sketched circle that I already had. So the circle that I used to measure my larger circle, that's where I'm going to add some stitching off camera just a little bit later on. And I had a bit of trouble trying to sort of build some layers. The circle background with the world sort of map, I think I didn't want to cover too much of it. I really liked how it looked, and so I had to fiddle around with the placement and pardon me, really try to work out where I wanted these elements to go. And it wasn't until I had sat this down on my desk for a couple of days, put it aside, had a look at it, took the stitching away, did the stitched elements, and came back to it, that I worked out how I was going to really make this layout come together. And that was, obviously you've seen the first part, like the finished product at the first part of this video, and you'll notice that I put some more circles in different places around the background behind my photos. So because there are lots of embellishments and bits and pieces that we get to use, I think this was a great way, just popping some cardboard for dimension behind the main focus of the layout, which is obviously the photos and the journaling, but then having these little bits and pieces to pop behind it really worked a treat. And I've inked a couple of them and popped some journaling on there as well, and just trying to sort of bring it together. And while I was thinking about how I could add something a little more, because it was very structured. You know, I had that stripe of 3 and I had that circle, and I love the stitching. It was really great, but I love these chevrons as well. I think the colors in the chevrons are awesome when you fussy cut them and distress the edges as well. They're so textural, and they're just a really easy way, pardon me, they're just a really easy way to add that little something extra to the layout. So I'm going to tuck those in a roundabout fashion. They don't have to be perfectly aligned. As you can see, they're not necessarily pointing to everything. They're purely just for decoration purposes. And once I'm happy with the placement, I now have finally decided that because I spent all that time stitching around that, I don't really want to cover up too much of that stitching. I think it's important that you're able to see it. So keeping my cluster of my photo down low, and I'm going to offset the circular element. I did almost forget about these little planes. I was thinking, you know, what step do I take next? I've got my journaling, which is my story. I've got a title piece. I've really embellished quite heavily with the chevrons, the stitching. There's a lot of texture. So the planes had kind of almost got forgotten, but they do make it onto the page. And this is this point where I sort of think, what do I do with this circle? You know, do I center the layout? Do I leave the circle off? Do I cut the circle in half? What do I want to do? How am I going to fix this? And so back to the paper, I'm going to cut some more circles and distress some more circles and just continue with that sort of distress circle theme and move a few of them into the background of the layout. So I think it works really well because there's still the world map kind of element, but the circles are different sizes and they're a different colored pattern paper. So this to me blends in really nicely, and I really love how this came together, particularly that sort of upper left-hand circle. I really like that this really, it finishes the visual triangle, so it gives me that area to embellish in that top left corner, and that's a point of the triangle. The bottom left where the journaling is a point of the triangle, and then the photos are the other point of the triangle. So not a perfect triangle, but that gives you an idea of my visual representation of how I'm putting this layout together. So this is working much better. I am super happy. I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to put it together and just, you know, without the cluster, it doesn't look right. This is not something I would ever do in a background normally, but I really love how it looks against that circular background element. Lots of glue. You'll notice I'm using lots of glue. I want to make sure that this is never going to move. I don't want it to unstick. It has to be really attached because my layouts do like to fall apart and not ideal. So just a few little bits and pieces here to stick everything down, making sure that, nothing's going to lift down the track, making sure I'm happy with the position, putting everything together. So the design team has really had some fun putting together layouts for you. I hope that you are inspired, and I definitely, if you're not a Kit subscriber and you didn't get one of these, pop over and grab one, because when I first unboxed this, it was something that I thought I wouldn't enjoy. And I think that's the best part of getting a kit, is that the thought is taken out for you. Everything coordinates. It's a simple matter of, you know, scrap lifting a design team member if you're needing inspiration. And we aim to inspire you with all of our layouts. So hopefully today that's happened for you. And even if it's just that you want to play with some circles or do some distressing, you know, cut out some of those chevron pieces, it really is just about giving you some inspiration and hoping that you can get creative. All right, so for the final step, I had these little packets of sequins just sitting on my desk. They'd fallen out of something else that I was putting away, and so I decided that I was going to roll with it. Although not part of the kit, I bet you've got sequins in your stash that you could bust, and I love that little pop of gold against the black and how it blends in quite nicely with the kit. That is my share for you for today. I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, if you're not already a subscriber, definitely hit that little button.